So, it's the big kind of conclusion to the trial of the Time Lord stuff. Now, we have seen the Doctor on the trial for his life against a ruthless villain who ended up being himself. We saw him lose a companion, gain a companion, gain allies, deal with insane threats, robots, vaginas, more vaginas. It was a big roller coaster, in all honesty. And I have to say, as a season, it's good. In terms of especially a very short season for Doctor Who, because whereas they usually had maybe I think the number was six stories, with even more episodes than they had. This definitely sculpted it out a little better. It's far better than what the season afterwards would end up doing with it, as I keep mentioning. As an story arc, it's a little rocky, but I think that's just the way it's executed. There's cool ideas here. As a whole arc, I love the fact that they were going for a Christmas Carol kind of story, where we have story in the past, story in the present, story in the future, with all of it culminating in the end. The thing that just stops it is the trial segments in Mysterious Planet Enter the Vervoids just kind of make it seem clunky, and it's not as smooth as a ride as it should have been as a whole story. And the three of the four stories are are anywhere from good to great. It's kind of weird now that I reflect on it. One half of Mysterious Planet and the second half of Ultimate Foe were decent, albeit flawed at points. Only because I don't know. There's just components of Mysterious Planet didn't work, and we established, at least I thought I established, a fairly good reason why Ultimate Foe couldn't work. It was literally made by completely different people with absolutely no feedback or ideas of what was going to happen, so they completely had to make stuff up from scratch and just give a conclusion to the other part, especially how big it left it. Mind Warp was, though it had a few weak performances, very well handled. It was dark, it had good moments of character and comedy, and I think it's the strongest story of this season. If anything, the trial stuff might be a tad confusing, but if you chose a story as a season, if I had to choose one story, I think this one holds up a lot better. Ultimate Foe definitely doesn't hold up because they out of all the balls that were thrown up in the air with episode 1, episode 2 doesn't manage to catch them all, and also it's the big final act of this huge story, so it's definitely not the place to go. It went up to a high, went downhill, and landed safely in the middle in the end. Colin was great throughout the season. He had a few moments of cheese, but he's great at that. He just somehow makes you happy that he's the one doing it. And if this were to be now this being his last season, I think he ended it. Say this season never existed at all, and he had to end out on his first season, it would have been, as a season, it would have been a disappointment. Granted, I like Vengeance on Varos. The Two Doctors isn't flat out bad, but I get some. I've seen Revelation of the Daleks. I keep forgetting that. Revelation of the Daleks is really mixed. I haven't seen any of the other ones in this season, though I'm dreading Time Lash at the most, and Mark of the Ronnie, from what I keep hearing. This wasn't supposed to be a last hurrah, of course. This has him walking off in the sunset. And a big question is, wouldn't I have liked it if it had a cliffhanger? No, because if it went the same way it did, if it went on and they fired Colin, then that cliffhanger would have never been resolved, and I would have been pissed off. And I think I'm kind of happy it ends with the sunset, because I want some sort of closure for this doctor. Having him, struggle for his life at the end, only to see them haphazardly make him regenerate and continue on, would have been a letdown. His regeneration's still a letdown, but at least the moment before that, he got out of it safe and continued. The Valyard was great. Definitely, anytime he was on screen, he had a presence. He was definitely a wonderful foil. And subtly, even though I didn't know it, you kind of can see, though it's more of a blunt thing, it's not like, I don't know, it's kind of easy to simply look at it as him as, before you find out he's a doctor, he's just this guy who's disgusted with what he does. But after, you can totally see him kind of disgusted at him, because that's what he used to be, and it's obvious he's the kind of guy who, if you want a good example, look back at Amy's Choice, where we see his dark side kind of show up and mock him. He looks down on him, and now you can translate it as that's himself after his spirit basically being extinguished, replaced with darkness, looking down on him as a fool for protecting people, and in a way, I feel, try and ignite it himself, try and inch the Doctor closer to it, to show that he always had evil, and with the remaining regenerations, thanks to wibbly wobbly timey wimey nonsense that they didn't explain, he would go on. And in fact, they did in a way. Big Finish has a short-lived range called Doctor Who Unbound. They're basically Elseworld stories. And they did a bunch of ones. They did one where, what if the Doctor never left Gallifrey? What if the Doctor never became the unit secretary, unit scientific advisor? What if the Doctor turned into a woman after being exiled? Not exactly. Like, she's on the run and regenerated into a woman. The big thing, though, is the fact that the Doctor was played by a woman. But one of them is, what if the Valyard won, and it had him and Bonnie Langford. And from what I understand, it was an attempt at being Hulk, Future Imperfect, and I'm still interested in getting it. I've just been kind of slow on it. There were remarkable performances, recurring elements. Let's see. Perry, like I said, was good, and I'm kind of happy to treat her more like an adult. And she had at least more acting experience, so you could tell she had some practice and came off as a bearable actress. Another thing I forgot to bring up with the Ultimate Foe review is the fact that they completely disregard Perry's death at the end. How I forgot that, I'm totally ashamed of, and I'm making it up here. It was bad. She should have stayed dead. Nicola Bryant will tell you she should have stayed dead. There's apparently a bonus feature on the DVD where they had her give commentary on episode 2 specifically, and because she hadn't seen it, she never saw that part of it, and she was just basically sharing everyone else's thoughts of crap that I liked the way I went out. However, this has spawned two things. One, the awesome companion chronicle called Perry and the Piskin Paradox, which basically takes a very tongue-in-cheek kind of approach to not only the ending of this, but some of the other weirdly books and comics have established different continuities. Another one to bring up is, and I can't believe I forgot this. This is a hilarious tidbit. In the novelization for Mind Warp, not only did Perry not die, but Philip Martin changed it to where they went to Earth, Yrkanos became a professional wrestler, and Perry became his manager. That's awesome. So, in a weird way, it produced a great story, with Big Finish, and a very hilarious change. And I do think Perry should have stayed dead. I am on that camp. But I don't know. You can't change the past, and that's the thing. It's one of those things that the show did that you can always be angry. You need those. They make you think more about the things you love when you point out flaws. It gives more power to the positive. So that's it. That's it. I'm very ashamed that I forgot those points, and I'm glad I have this video to point them out. Mel, I did honestly drop the ball with Mel. Here's the thing about Mel. She does a few things more useful in Vervoids, and then after that, she's not as useful. Though there is one thing I did want to bring up. She's apparently she does something. She finds out that there's something I can't even remember now. They go to the Matrix and they're like a megabyte modem or something that's insanely dated and silly. It's obvious that they had something for her. They were going to make her physically fit, which they never explore after this season and her other season. They made her a computer expert, which they played with something in a Big Finish, I think. All in all, she's not that great of a character. And I can see people not liking her. But I don't know. She had as opposed to Perry when she started, this woman had acting talent backing her up already, I feel. And worked with Colin fairly well, though I still feel if there is a companion, Perry is his companion. That's just my personal feeling on it. So I will admit I kind of dropped the ball in the other reviews, but that's why I have this to claim it. Anything else? I'm glad this one introduces Glitz, and we will see him one more time after this, and we're covering that episode on this day as well. Inquisitor was good. She was a straight man, for lack of a better term. Got along with both actors very well. Played stern, but didn't and was written well at times because she kind of has to be the voice of the Time Lords. Well, at least, the sensible side of them, even though you find out they're all traitors in the end, which gets dropped off. Here's the thing. This story can be defined as this. Had amazing potential, threw dozens of balls in the air only to catch a little over half. And that's better than, only a couple. It's a mess at times, but all in all, I thought it was a very passable story. It's definitely a prototype, a very, what's the word? Successful, but not like, okay. Say we're dealing with, the box office that Green Lantern had. Green Lantern had a fairly decent box office. This did not reach Avenger level box office, if that analogy works. This wasn't a complete success, but it was nowhere near a failure. I'm glad I watched all of it, with the exception of Vervoids. Vervoids I was a little damp. It just kind of low spirits on, but I will say this. If anyone ever plans on watching Trial of a Time Lord, I say for the most part, you're not going to be completely disappointed. If you go into it thinking it's going to be amazing, then you'll be disappointed. If you go in thinking it's going to be garbage, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. But definitely the level you want to go at is, expect some gems here and there. And all in all, a pleasant watch.